Jesus freak here. Now, I've noticed something about Bible translations over time. A lot of hypotheses and just general hypotheses in the 19th century were posited, and then, people backed off of them, realizing, they were no good. Now, there's also been a tendency over time for various hypotheses regarding the Bible text or Bible interpretation. Something to be suggested around the 19th, turn of the 20th century, and people draw back a bit from it. Let's take a look at a couple verses. Let's look at Acts 1:20. When it quotes a verse out of Psalms, it says, "For it is written in the book of Psalms, let his habitation be desolate, and let no man dwell therein, and his bishopric let another take." Now, in various revisions down the KJV line, I'm using a website for some of these I don't have ready access to, but let's look at the ASV here. "For it is written in the book of Psalms, let his habitation be desolate, and let no man dwell therein, and his office let another take." This is a minor thing, but a very specific interpretation has to be applied here. I'm going to go to the RSV, another step down the line. "For it is written in the book of Psalms, let his habitation be desolate, and let there be no one to live in it, and his office let another take." And now I'm going to quote the NRSV, another step down the line. "For it is written in the book of Psalms, let his homestead become desolate, and let there be no one to live in it, and let another take his position of overseer." Sounds like they went back to the KJV interpretation. This being used to refer to Judas Iscariot. The reference to bishopric is actually something you see kind of evolve in. Another interesting reading here is Ezekiel 38:2, where this bonkers theory, pushed, for example, by Schofield, comes from a misinterpretation that was posited in the 19th century and has now mostly been rejected, but you still find it in some translations. You look at Ezekiel 38:2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Again, I don't have an ASV, so I'm going to quote that off this website, Bible Hub. Son of man, set thy face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now, in this case, I'm tracing down a different line. The other side of the ASV evolution, as it may be. And since I'm taking too long to find my 77 here. Here we go. Ugh. Same verse, Ezekiel 38:2. Son of man, set your face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Right? If I can't find my 95 in a few seconds. Here we go. Same verse again. Son of man, set your face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And the current edition of the NASB actually draws this back toward the previous reading. It says, Son of man, set your face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. See, this has to do with a discredited hypothesis that they're talking about Russia and Moscow and stuff. Which, that's eisegesis, it's not exegetical. And the 2020 NASB actually rightly pulls back on that. So, why do I mention these verses? It so happens that there's also a trend more generally regarding the Bible text. I used an Old Testament example. There's probably better examples in the New. There's been somewhat of a push to reinstate things that were rejected in a lot of the New Testament printed, from 1881 up until recently. We were relying on the hypotheses posited mostly by name F.J.A. Hort. He had some bonkers theories, honestly. And people followed them for decades. But more recently, they've realized, they're bunk. And a lot of verses that were formerly dropped out as, oh, and this was added later. Eventually, these things have gone from being footnotes and been put back in the text. Let's 1946 edition of the RSV. Focus, focus. What I'm trying to show here is that the pericope adulterae, John 7:53 through 8:11, is literally just a footnote here. And here is a 1971 RSV. And although it's still got a footnote in it, it's not itself a footnote. Gradually, things that were thought, stuff to reject, have become accepted again. People are realizing that the textual theories of the 19th century were wrong. That they were being too iconoclastic. They were changing too many things for the sake of change. And things being put back. As they should. Now, I don't always agree with the Robinson Pierpont text. There's some places I think they got it wrong. I think it's a superior text to Nestle Aland. But one big place that I see as problematic is Acts 8:38, right up here at the 8:37, I mean, right up here at the top. See, the whole verse is missing. And this is the majority text. And this is one place I don't think the majority text got it right. Because that verse is so important theologically that the only reason it could possibly be missing from that many manuscripts is that as the church's doctrine evolved, they had to squelch it. It's interesting to look at the non-English Bible tradition. A lot of times you'll have translations that just made from English. And it's like, a lot of languages really could benefit from having real English, as a real translation and not one made from an English translation. But you got a few of them in Spanish. Now you'll notice, for example, the NASB, at best to commit the comma Johannium to a note. Again, here's an NASB 95. Alright. There's just a footnote there for the comma Johannium. Now here's the Spanish counterpart. And I find it interesting, even though they say they're based on Nestle Aland. It's the other way around. There's the whole comma Johannium right up there in the corner. So, despite being, from Lockman Foundation, the same people did the NASB. And here, like I mentioned before, en general se ha seguido el texto del Nuevo Testamentum gracias a Nestle Aland en su 27ª edición, Nestle Aland 27. Yet, in many cases, it got Textus Receptus readings. It's not a bad thing necessarily. But in general, this movement seems to be back toward the King James. Maybe this means at some point we'll have a real modern translation in the same vein. Somewhat of what I was trying to do with the TTT. Doesn't have to rely on the King James. Like, the New King James relies too much on it sometimes. MEV relies on it too much, even more. But an independent translation from the same textual bases. Maybe it's no longer a pipe dream. Jesus, freak out.